Alrighty, well I want to have a little talk about, you know what a number of people probably want to talk about, but is being wiped off of social media as they do talk about it. And it's surprising how you can more or less create a Stalinist / socialist type country in the sense of a few groups jumping together to change reality. You can end up with some sort of a Soviet Union style level of misinformation and propaganda. It's incredible, really, how between the media and big tech, they've decided to pretty much just write history as they feel they should. They sort of all come together and all decided that they're going to play it a certain way, and bingo, what do you know? You got propaganda levels at Soviet Union levels. In this day and age, where so-called information technology was supposed to make us know everything and understand every point, but somehow when you get on your damn phone, the mainstream media still controls a lot of it all, and it's not much of a different version of events as to how it was pre-internet anyway, where the TV just said something and you just took it as fact. And, well, it is amazing how it sort of turned out that way. And a lot of it's coordination and algorithm manipulation, and just like the big money in the British Empire made attempts to stay the big money, as even happened here in Australia. When gold mining started, they decided to try and cut out the average Joe and make it so you needed a gold mining license, which was so expensive only the rich could afford it, therefore further enriching the rich by only allowing them to mine gold and cutting out the little man. That led to a rebellion where about 95 people were shot in one night, and that is where Australian culture diverged very much from English culture, where the common man on the street had a chance to become a millionaire instead of the old guard controlling the power as they always had. And let's face it, that's exactly what the media is trying to do. They're trying to cling on to the power that they've had for decades. You know, with all of this, they are trying and have, let's face it, you know, they're fairly successful at controlling what is recorded as history. Intriguingly enough, this has become all too apparent in recent times. And these recent times might lead to a bit more history that's also not going to be recorded very well and may only come out 30, 40 years later, as a lot of the history in the Soviet Union did, like so many people in the Soviet Union that never knew that Chernobyl happened until decades later. In that case, it wasn't really decades later, because the Soviet Union only fell, you know, 25th of December 1991, by which time a lot of secrets had sort of come out, and Chernobyl happened in '86. But other things that happened, there's still a hell of a lot to this day in Russia that happened in the 50s and the 40s and all that they don't have a full answer on, even today. You know, just certain protests and things like that occurred, and some other gnarly things with where all the injured World War II veterans magically disappeared too, and there's a bloody bad story behind that they still don't know if it's true or not. But anyway, getting off track a bit here. What I want to talk about is open corruption in plain sight, and it's just sort of squashed. It's just thrown down the memory hole. Some of you remember the days of WikiLeaks when it come out with old Hillary that, well, you know how she's got that charity over in Haiti. Well, if you wanted to be heard and you wanted things to happen in your favour, she was willing to listen to you and ignore other people so long as you donated money to that charity in Haiti. Now, isn't it funny that the Haitian people suddenly paid for her daughter's very expensive wedding? You're talking about a bunch of piss-poor subsistence farmers / gangs / kids on the verge of starvation eating literally mud pies to survive because there's so many vitamins in the mud. And these are the people that magically paid for her wedding, where she happens to also have a charity that has hundreds of millions donated to it. Yeah. Sure. It really come from the Haitian people. I'm certain. Yeah, right, yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, when the great man, Mr. Assange, who, you know, let's face it, grew up in the city that I work in, he tapped a few keys, or one of his associates did, and bada bing, what do we know? She's got a folder called Pay to Play on a computer. They've fucking no passwords, or every password they had, the password was literally PASSWORD. You know, she was selling out political office to put money in her charity, which she really treats as a personal bank account, because really, let's face it, that's what it is. So anyway, regardless of that, she never went to jail and nothing fucking happened, except she just didn't win the election. Now, lo and behold, time rolls on, and somebody's son who's on crack leaves a laptop to be repaired and never picks it up because he's on crack and he probably can't remember where it is or what the fuck happened to it, or it is. He's a drug addict. His brains are scrambled. So anyway, he leaves this laptop behind and never gets picked up, so the store owner decides, well, we're going to clean it off and sell it. But he has a tap around, look around what's on the hard drive first. And he finds some shit that is just fucking incredible. So he doesn't fully trust the FBI because he knows that there's a few little political favours going on. He realises who signed the piece of paper to drop it off, who's supposed to pay the bill. He realises who it is, and he realises that maybe he should make a copy on a hard drive. So he copies that hard drive to another portable hard drive, or 2 or 3. We don't really know. There might be a few more copies out there. And he gives it to the FBI, who sits on it since December 2019. And he decides as times roll on that maybe people should be known about this, so Mr. Giuliani gets a copy, you know, Trump's lawyer. Former New York mayor gets a copy. Oh, at which point Hunter Biden's lawyer finds out. So he fucking rings up Giuliani and asks us if he can have the hard drive back. He emails. And he also makes a phone call to ask for the hard drive back. Yeah? Well, I think that there might be an admission of guilt, I'm just saying. And especially the fact that, you know, there's video of the guy smoking crack pipe, or, well, people are saying it's actually a meth pipe. Oh, holy other shit which will get you banned from YouTube. There's like, you know, maybe a 15-year-old girl involved in some of these videos and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, that wasn't the explosive bit though. explosive bit was the 40,000 emails. And, you know, we got 3.5 million coming from Russian mayor's wife. We got a few million there coming from a Ukrainian gas company. We got $10 million a year coming from... That's all. Hey, maybe the guy's got a legitimate business. Or does he? He's never had a job, and he's a bumbling drug addict. And it turns out, when you read the emails, it's fairly easily deciphered what's being said with words like, phrases like the big guy, and, you know, basically, well, it wasn't just Hillary, it's Joe as well. But don't worry about sending it to any charity. You can send it to a company, or one of 3 companies in California, and, yeah, it's just, here you go, $10 million for a Chinese food company CEO. A few million for some Russian mob, which we're not fully sure of. Quite a lot from a Ukrainian gas company. Blah, 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 blah. This gives you access and meetings with the big guy, and you know, the Secret Service can say, oh, well, you know, or his official staff can say, well, he didn't have any meeting with that person. Yeah. On his set bloody schedule, in his diary, that the secretary, of course he didn't, but guess who he went out for dinner with that night? Fuck me drunk, if this guy isn't dumping it in some foreign charity, he's getting the money directly sent to his son and his brother in companies they've formed. Wow. Well, it might not be true. No, hang on. He called it Russian disinformation, didn't he? And what happened? Mr. T-O-N-Y-B-U-B Linsky decided to come out and say, you know, I was involved in this business too, and this is what happened, and here's my emails, you can freely have them, and oh, they match the ones sent from the laptop that the ones you've received, the times and the dates, and they're identical. It's all coming together. Those 2 things made it to mainstream news on one show of mainstream news. The rest of the mainstream media just flattened it. One show on one network. Another one that didn't make it there was the fact that Joe's daughter moved out of a place in San Francisco, I think it was, somewhere in California, and well, she left a few bits and pieces behind. And I mean, you know, sure, people sometimes leave stuff behind, like furniture they don't want. What? She left a diary behind. And someone, the landlord of the place she used to rent, got to reading this diary he found. And oh shit, it's all much the same stuff. My question is, if it's open public knowledge, and at least one TV channel has covered it, while big tech, social media, and the rest of TV media has squashed it, except for one newspaper and one TV channel. It is out there and it's known by the public. How the fuck was he not disqualified running for president? Eh? How the fuck? In my country, where technically speaking we're still under the Queen, we have the Queen's representative called the Attorney General. And if this sort of shit would happen here, the Attorney General would step in and just say, you're not running for president / prime minister and you're fucking out. That's it. None of this, oh, we're all going to work together with the deep state and the media and the flicker blah, blah, blah. Nah, they would just say, you're fucking disqualified. And that's it. And the guy would be very lucky. Well, the guy probably would face jail. There's one guy who's admitted to using public office here to help people immigrate to this country for a bit of cash in his pocket. And fuck me, they've had a full-blown inquiry over it. This is one guy. This is not the whole upper echelon of the fucking one party. This is just one guy. And they've fucking tipped up shit inside out and back to front, got everybody's fucking phone texts off the phone company, gone through everyone's emails, truckloads of shit, and this is from like 5 years back. They're digging up half of this shit, and they've fucking tipped it inside out and back to front, and there's a big inquiry. And yet it happens in the United States, and it just fucking blows over, and it's all just water under the bridge, all forgotten about. Are you fucking serious? And you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, the home of fucking freedom. Oh, fuck off. You're the home of easily buried corruption. The stuff I've heard about cops who are meth addicts in America and all this sort of shit, who just because they're the biggest power in some small country town in the Midwest, it just all blows over, blows over, blows over. This sort of shit doesn't happen here. Yeah, we get the occasional corrupt cop. Yes, the local cop here has been caught growing weed and selling it. But that's one level of corruption. You know, there was no selling public office for tens of millions of dollars. But it just flies in America. How the fuck has this happened? It seems like you got all these laws and there's just no chance to actually, like, be prosecuted and go to jail for half of this shit. Or there's just like a fucking whole series of untouchables or something. You know, and you got all this big fucking, you know, if you murder, it's 25 to life, or here it's only 4 years on average. But you look at all this shit and you just sit there going, you got all the laws in place, but it's just open corruption and nobody fucking does anything about it, you know? Fucking hell. We had a Prime Minister who, there was talk of him saying he's going to stop industry or stop manufacturing in this country. He's going to wipe it out altogether. There's also talk that he was spending money that wasn't budgeted for at a horrendous rate that he couldn't cover the cost of. We're not 100% sure, but he was fucking up one way or the other. And back in about 1973, I believe it was, the Governor-General just stepped in 6 months into the guy's term and just said, that's it, you're fucking done. Bang! And he was fucking out, just like that. No impeachment, no big long drawn out trial, no, he had to just stepped in and just said, get the fuck out, and he was out. And that was it, it's just wiped out. We're not 100% sure what he was doing, but apparently it wasn't great, and he was just taken out of power in like less than 2 weeks. He was fucking out the door, and the next guy was in, which was the opposition party leader. But you know, the Orange Man gets a 3-year investigation into the possibility that he might have been taking money and selling political office to no other than Putin. And after 3 years of fucking around, there's nothing to it. Meanwhile, there's shit turning up and witnesses turning up and files and stuff, documents, the whole lot, turning up, showed on mainstream news, and everybody sits on their fucking hands and does nothing. Wow. Interesting to note that last time there was primaries for that particular party, old Bernie got in. And yet he was sort of booted out of the way by old Hillary, and that sort of really burned a few Bernie supporters. And, well, this year, this time around, 2020, it all looks like it's on track to go the same way, doesn't it? And then, out of nowhere, in the last few weeks, bingo! Just out of fucking nowhere, after being really low percentage, just in a couple of weeks, bingo! Biden wins the nomination by getting a higher vote in the primaries. I hate to think that might have been practice for what just happened with the big one a week or so back, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, that might have been practice. If we can outdo Bernie this time around by certain means, well, maybe we can do it for the big one, and then we'll have the whole country. Fucking hell. Poor old Bernie, you feel sorry for him, you know, being just outskirt, you know, just shoved aside, and Hillary put in over the top of him in 2016. You know, he had they want to give it a nice name, but he basically had a heart attack while campaigning this year, had 2 weeks off, and he was back at it again. My gosh, that's fucking dedication. To have a heart attack and go back to not quit your campaign after you have a fucking heart attack. They called it a heart blah 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 something, but it was a fucking heart attack. If you ask anyone who knows anything about medical terms, it was a heart attack. And the poor bastard went back to campaign, and to have it whipped from under him again. Oh yes, but Biden won the primaries. Did he, or was there shit going on there as well? You got a guy who spent most of his campaign only doing the occasional fucking interview with TV here and there. You know, maybe only one a week at most. Sometimes it wasn't even that. Sometimes it was like one a fortnight. Having all these so-called lid days where people can't, you know, he's having a day off, he just decides it, bang, we're not dealing with it. When do you have a fucking day off when you're campaigning? When the fuck's that happen? This guy just randomly decides they're going to call one, bang, you know, and then only in the last 2 weeks does he get a little bit serious. But let's face it, did you see the Las Vegas rally? No one there except media and a band he paid to come. So this band, he has his little talk, the band plays this little friggin' thing, and then he ends up talking to an 11-year-old boy in the band, because there's no fucking supporters. At that point you see people walking away. Oh, that's the support. No, it's not. It's media, because they've all got giant lens cameras hanging around the damn neck, and notepads and shit with them. Are you fucking serious? He went to Las Vegas to hold a rally and nobody turned up. The next day, he went to have another rally and they had one woman in her late 60s with a Trump flag trying to use the flag to block the cameras. At which point, security fucking took her down and a member of the media tore the flag off of her. Yeah. No bias there. No. All these other ones, you know, it turns up. He's got another talk, you know, he's going to this one. Little circles. You look at all the guys sitting in the seats in the circles. Half of them are media. There might be 25 circles. There'll be 10, 15 media. I don't think until the last couple of days he had rallies where there was more than, you know, with 50 people or so at these rallies. Until that last couple of days, he would get anything from 0 to 15 people. And yet you want me to believe that this guy that needs a teleprompter for everything, that fumbles his words twice a day while the TV cameras are on but they edit it out for him, you want me to believe that a guy with fucking no one or one person with a Trump flag turned up to his rallies, or 5 or 10 people, got more votes than Obama did in 2008? What are you, fucking nuts? The public enthusiasm for this guy is dead in the fucking water. It's absolutely knackered. No one gives a fuck. No one really gives a shit. Oh, they don't want to spread corona. Whoa. So you can go out there for a Black Lives Matter protest / RIOT, and there'll be fucking thousands of them out there. Not a problem. But the potential president turns up, and there's not 3,000 there, there's not 5,000. It's not like Orange Man who, you know, averaged about 30,000, at least 10,000. One time he got like 54,000. You have a riot that's, you know, conducted by a group that's funded by the same party as old Goodbye Dunn is in, and you can get thousands there for that protest / RIOT, and you know, let's face it, some of them are probably coming for whatever they can walk out of the shops with, if you know what I mean. But this guy who's going to be the potential president he gets like 5 or 10 people at his rallies, and sometimes none, or 1, or 10, or what? And you're trying to tell me, with all honesty, that he got more votes than Obama did in 2008? Oh, fuck off! No fucking way! And some people say, oh, Trump got even more than Obama did. And that may well be true, but I'm trying to put this in context of people who are foreigners like myself, who remember the Obama days, the hype of Obama coming in, the enthusiasm, the public enthusiasm, the public support. Now, some of them, you know, the FAKE news sort of got in there and sort of gave you bullshit versions of 2016. So not everybody really knows how that played out, because the version you'd see on YouTube versus the version you'd see on TV were different. But really speaking, everybody remembers Obama. So that's why I'm using him as an example. There's no fucking way knowing that that happened. There's just absolutely bottom of the barrel public support for this guy. And now he declared that he's the office of the president-elect. You know, the office of the president-elect isn't an official fucking office. It's just some shit that's made up. Fucking hell. You know, the Electoral College decides who won the election, not the fucking media. Yeah. Anyway, there's an old phrase that goes, you know, you might have won the battle, but you lost the war, and that might just be about to happen. He might lose the war, but yeah, that might play out a little bit worse than he expects. A cat that wants to come in. I don't know how it's going to play out. I do know that a lot of people smell a rat. I do know that it's very funny that when you're counting the first day and you've got about 50-50, but a couple more for the orange man, but it's not too bad, you know, even with the mail-in votes and all that, the orange man's doing a little bit better. And then you stop counting that night. The next morning, you decide to start counting again, and it's one vote for Joe and another and another, and next thing you're gone 4 or 5 hours, and it's just pretty much all votes for one guy. The same guy who needs a teleprompter to say anything, the same guy who forgets what he's talking about mid-sentence, the same guy who can run the world and has got it all sorted out, and you know he's going to be running this country, and yet he's going to get a phone call that says, Mr. President, North Korea has nuked Japan, what should we do? And his secretary's going to say, sorry, Mr. President is having a lid day today. He'll get back to you on North Korea attacking Japan and Japan asking for military assistance. Maybe tomorrow if he doesn't have another lid day tomorrow, but at least within the next 3 days he'll get back to you on if we're going to help Japan in their clean up of nuclear waste, in their you know, attempt to save their country from being attacked by a grumpy little short fat man in North Korea who's firing rockets all over the... But you know, look, he's having a lid day today while he's president, so you're just going to have to put this whole fucking World War III on the back burner, I'm sorry. We'll get back to you on World War III. What the fuck? What? The fuck is going on? Honestly, you know. Anyway, they might decide that it's officially going to go this way and officially going to go that way, but I'm not the one that really is the first to say this, and I didn't really think of it initially, but many others have said it, and I'm coming to believe it might be the case too, that this might not end very well. And it might, you know, they might count and say, hey, yo, you know, the old geezer's oh, Joe's done better than we thought, you know, and they might decide to include all those counts that were bought in the early hours of the morning that just had his name on them, you know, and they can sit there, count for the next 5 hours straight on the second day, and they're all for him, and there's none for Orange Man. They might decide it's all going to fly, but it doesn't mean that it's all going to end well, because, well, one survey reckons 70% of Americans believe it was rigged, and there's another survey that says, you know, Americans have got something like the second or third highest gun ownership in the world. I think it's the second highest gun ownership in the world after Afghanistan. And at the end of the day, I don't know that it's all going to play out how they were hoping it was going to. And like my uncle used to say, every now and then, sometimes you just need a fucking good clean out. But that's their business. That's none of my shit, you know. If you're an American, it's your country, not mine. And yeah, we'll just see what plays out, but it might get very hairy. I'm not saying the CW word that most are, but there might be a few fun and games. I would suggest that the Northeast and the West Coast just remain the United States, and the rest of you decide that maybe it's time to start a separate country. And I'll tell you, from a country where succession is, you know, talked about and mentioned by individuals, and we have had one place that is officially separated, and Hutt River Province, and you know, you don't need permission from fucking anyone to secede, because California didn't need it when they pulled out of Mexico, and neither did Texas, and nobody needs it to pull out of the United States either. And you know, maybe if you pull out as a separate country, you lose the $21 trillion debt, and you just leave that with the West Coast and the Northeast. And it's an idea.